Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show here on STV, in a very special week when we celebrate Scotland's greatest football year of 1967. And we start with an unbelievable match in 1967 between Scotland and England at Wembley, when we were crowned unofficial world champions, when we defeated the old enemy on their own turf just a year after they'd celebrated winning the World Cup. And I'm delighted to say, alongside Alan Ruff and myself, Peter Martin, we have one of the Wembley Wizards, Jim McCalliog, as our very special guest. Delighted to have Jim on the programme. We've got lots to talk about, and over the next hour, if you are old enough to remember that game, then you can wallow in it. If you are not, and you're one of the younger element of our viewers, then you're in for a wonderful education on a specific day when I think it's fair to say, Jim McCalliog, everybody was expecting England to trounce Scotland.
Yes, I think so. I think we were about 6-1. You could get a bet on us, but we didn't feel that way because we had some world-class players in this team, and the mood in the camp was very confident.
The one thing that I remember, Ruffy, when I was looking back over this game, and I've looked back over it on countless occasions as far as the quality, you have an England side which Jimmy Greaves would easily have taken his place in the starting 11 for Alf Ramsey in 1966. I think Geoff Hurst was the beneficiary of him not being selected. But as far as Scotland were concerned, I worked it out that barring the injuries to Eddie McCready and Dennis Law, all 11 of the players would have played in a European final. That was the standard of the players that we had.
Yeah, and that's possibly why we're lacking nowadays, that there's an era come and gone, and even after Jim and my era to a certain extent with the Liverpool boys winning European, that's why they were so successful, and they probably never went into a game feeling underdogs, as Jim's saying, because the confidence of putting on a Scotland jersey would take you through anything.
Yeah, there's a great Glasgow word, and in fact a great Scottish word, gallus. It's fair to say there were a few gallus players in that lineup, Jim.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you'd probably think that was Jim Baxter, but Dennis could sort his stuff as well, and so could we, Billy. So they're all pretty confident guys.
You were only 20 at the time. I mean, did you feel in awe? Can you remember the build-up to it? Because apart from anything else, you know, you were a much sought-after player, but at 20 years of age to make your Scotland debut.
Yeah, I was absolutely delighted. There was no nerves on my side. I was really looking forward to it. I thought, as I was a young guy, it was a place to learn. It was a place to gain experience. But when I looked around my dressing room, I see the guys that I was playing with, I just felt pretty confident.
Yeah. At any stage did you even think about this? Now, this is obviously relevant to you as well, but at any stage did you sit in that dressing room and think, there's 99,000 fans out there ready for this game?
Not at all, no. To me, it was just a focus on the game and do my best, and hopefully we would come out the winners in the end.
Yeah, I remember the night before my first game at Wembley, I said to Kenny, who had played in numerous Wembley games, and I said, well, obviously you think you know what's going to happen, but what is the first thing that's going to hit you? And he said the first thing is standing in the tunnel, you know, when you come out, and it's a massive walk up that tunnel, and all you can hear is a noise. You can't hear anything at all. And the thing about it is, that Jim will tell you, is when you get up the top, it's a bit of a relief when you see 90,000 Scottish supporters. The flags, and I remember the flags in my day, and I saw the clip of your game, and there just seemed to be the same amount of lying rampant flags waving about in that stadium. Yeah. I think the thing that really got it home to me was actually on the coach as we were coming into Wembley, and you could see all the colour and all the supporters there with all the scarves and everything like that. That really got to me. But like Alan says, when I was in the tunnel, we were all shaking hands with quite a few of the English players because we knew them. But the one person that wouldn't shake hands with any of them was Dennis Law. Dennis had Bobby Charlton there, his teammate at Man U, Robbie Stiles, and Dennis wouldn't shake hands with him.
What a great insight into his mindset, Ruffy.
Yeah.
You know, an out-and-out winner.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It is, you know, and it is. I mean, all footballers. It doesn't matter what level you're at. When you're standing in a tunnel and the opposition's across for you, there is a bit of staring goes on. Look at Scott Brown. When he's going out to play a game, and a lot of people are like that. They're so focused on what's happening, and the thought of not winning the game just beats everything in a Scotland-England game.
Yeah. And of course, this was a period in football where it wasn't screened live, the match, Jim. That's another aspect of it. I mean, it's picked up, actually, most of the radio commentaries, you know, we now join the game in the second half. So it wasn't as if there was a huge audience in Britain. There were highlights packages. Pathé News covered it as well.
Yeah. It was quite a surprise, that bit. Like I was explaining to Alan yourself earlier, they didn't even cancel the games. My team, Sheffield Wednesday, played Tottenham, and you know, that was the way it was back then.
Yeah. What was the camaraderie like and the spirit in the team? You mentioned Dennis Law being focused in the tunnel, but a lot of these guys, I mean, you would have known a few of them because there were a lot of Scottish players who were playing in England. What were they like? Yeah,
the lads were great. I mean, obviously you get a character like Baxter. I mean, Jim Baxter was just so confident. And you look around, and John Gregg, who's been there as well. John Gregg was geeing everybody up, and Tommy Gemmell was a bit mischievous as he always was. Tommy, Willie Wallace was always smiling, and Bobby Lennox with a wee cheeky grin on his face, but ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, there is a story, and I sometimes like these to enter into folklore, Ruffy, but I'm not sure about this one. Someone said apparently to Jim Baxter, is it not time maybe kind of a warm-up? He was reading the Racing Post, and he stretched one leg and stretched the other, and then turned the page on the Racing Post and continued. Is there any truth in that, Jim, whatsoever?
There probably is, because that was the way it was, because when we, just before the game, Bobby Brown kind of went around you individually and talked to you individually. And before the game, we were sat there, and all of a sudden the manager said, well, yeah, right, lads, and he started to talk. And then the next thing, Jim just got the ball, and he started bouncing the ball. He says, right, lads, let's go. And I'm sat there, I'm first cap, and I'm thinking, well, what do I do? And all I could see was all the players moving out the tunnel. And I'm looking at the manager, and I thought, I better follow them as well. So I just went off, and all we could hear was Bobby Brown in the background. All the best, lads. Good luck, lads.
Ruffy, that's your style of management, isn't it? Go out there and enjoy yourself.
It was. I remember my Scott Simon. I had Scott Simon and Scott just to walk into the dressing room and be the same. Plain and simple, go out and enjoy yourself, relax. You're paid to play football, you're paid to entertain the public that's here. And that's what you did. You just went out. I mean, obviously there was tactics at some stage, but that was the main emphasis, was go out and enjoy yourself. Yeah,
we will look in the next part of the programme at the lineups, the formations, and you can explain it all to us, Jim. But the one thing just before the break is the fact that you're going out there. There's a lot of really talented players on your side, but you're taking on an England team that are on a 19-match unbeaten run. I mean, they'd already dispatched, I think Wales and Northern Ireland comfortably before they got to Scotland.
Yeah, there was no doubt, and they were a very good team, and they had the togetherness of a club side, which obviously we didn't have. But the first time that was the first time this team was assembled, the Scotland team. And as it turns out, it was the last time, because we never ever played again together. But like I said, the confidence was in there. Dennis Law is a world-class player, Jim Baxter, John Gregg, Ronnie McKinnon, who was a very underrated player in my opinion. Ronnie was a great defender.
Yeah, some great names that you've mentioned there. We'll talk about the Scotland side and the England lineup as well. But, it's funny how Jim mentioned there that the team never played together again. After that defeat, you were watching the dismantling of the World Cup side as well for England. I mean, 3-2 is a scoreline that sticks in their throat, because not only did Scotland defeat them by 3 goals to 2, eventually they would lose in the quarter-finals in 1970 to West Germany by 3-2.
Yeah, I just think every team peaks at a particular time, and players peak at a right time, and they peaked obviously at the World Cup when they won it, and obviously teams are going to be dismantled and just through time, but they live for their day, don't they?
Yeah, I like to just build it up as the fact that defeat just shattered them, and eventually a couple of them had to go. But great little memories there from Jim McCalliog. After the break, we are going to talk about the formations. We'll get an insight into the game itself as well, and in particular, a certain man playing keepy uppy. Join us after the break. Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show, and welcome back indeed to a very special show, 1967, England 2, Scotland 3. We're focusing on the day we defeated the world champions England. They were on a 19-match unbeaten run, and the Scotland's players strolled out onto the Wembley turf with no fear when they defeated Sir Alf Ramsey's side. And here indeed is the scoreline. It just looks fantastic, Ruffy. I could look at that every day of the week. When you look at the calibre of the goal scorers, Law, Lennox and a certain debutant at 20 years of age, Jim McCalliog, getting a great goal in the match.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I was only a young kid at the time. I was only 15, and I remember clearly I was over in the park at Knightswood and with my mates, and we had, as you say, it wasn't on the telly, so we had the radio on while we were having a wee kickabout, and I was Ronnie Simpson, obviously, and all the guys in the team were people like Jim and Law, and that's the memory I have, is listening to the radio as the goals were going in and everybody celebrating in the park. That's what I remember that game. And you're right, fantastic players, fantastic team.
Yep, 3-2 the scoreline. OK, let's have a look at the teams. First of all, England, and Jim, it's a who's who. Oh
yeah, it's a fantastic. There's quite a lot of world-class players in there, i.e. Gordon Banks, Bobby Moore, Ray Wilson was very well thought of. And then you've got up front, you've got Bobby Charlton, who was a fabulous player, and you've got Alan Ball, Jimmy Greaves, who was one of my favourite players, and of course Jeff Hurst, who got the hat-trick in the World Cup final.
I mean,
the only ever hat-trick in a World Cup final.
It's an incredible lineup as well when you consider that Jimmy Greaves, I think Greaves actually scored on his debut for every club he played for. I mean, he was just a phenomenal striker. He just, if the ball hit his feet in the box, it was in the net.
Yeah, because when I was at Chelsea when I was 17, the youth team manager, Dickie Foss, had brought a lot of guys through the Chelsea youth academy, i.e. Peter Osgood, the Harris brothers, all them kind of guys. And I was actually sitting with Dickie Foss one day, and I says, seriously, I said, of all the players that have come through, who's the best player? And he says, without a shadow of a doubt, Jimmy Greaves.
I mean, he's phenomenal as a player. How good was Moore in your mind?
Bobby Moore was a very intelligent player. Everybody kept saying he's got no pace, but you've got to try and get behind him. And Bobby Moore wasn't. He was a very, like I said, intelligent player. So you wouldn't get behind him. He would play offside, but he was also the instigator of a lot of attacks, because the Banks would throw the ball to Bobby Moore, or Bobby Moore would pick it up and knock it to the front people and get them on the front foot as soon as he could. Yeah,
another thing about it, Ruffy, you see Bobby Charlton there in the midfield in our formation, but Bobby Charlton, listen, he could play anywhere across the middle of the park and as a striker.
Yeah, and Jim's probably better than us, because we had a debate in here a fortnight ago where we're talking about world-class players and of all the eras, and Bobby Charlton's never mentioned, and I don't know how it was we had on the show, but they said that Bobby Charlton was up there with the best.
Yeah, definitely. And a lovely guy as well, but two-footed, could strike a ball as well as anybody, and he was very quick. So I would have thought Bobby Charlton's certainly a world-class player.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. What about the Scotland lineup? Interestingly enough, when you look at it, I mean, we've got it in a 4-4-2 because it was. I think I've seen a formation on it. It was a 4-3-3. Can you explain it to us, Jim?
Well, the thing about the side really was the back four was as it is there, and Jim sat in the middle of the park really, but especially myself and Willie Wallace, we had our freedom to go where we wanted, and so did Billy. So between the four of us, we had to organise ourselves, but we left obviously the two main strikers, Dennis and Bobby Lennox up front, and Bobby could catch pigeons, so Bobby could turn the defenders round, and then we could back them up. But it was very flexible. I think what Bobby Brown had done is he picked a team to play the game, and he didn't do a lot on tactics and things like that. They just let you get on with your game, and then at half time, then they maybe say whatever at half time. But we started off great. We started pinning them down, and we didn't give them a moment's rest, and it all went well for us.
Yeah, I've got to ask you about Dennis Law, because what was it like for you actually playing with effectively a guy who was your hero?
Yeah, that was great, because the Monday before the actual game, my club, Sheffield Wednesday, we had a fixture against Man United, and I got to meet Dennis, and I thought that was great, because that certainly put me at ease, because it's always difficult meeting your hero, and I'd like to say I'm a good friend of his now, so he always calls me kid.
Yeah, absolutely. even at your age, it's still a good feeling, isn't it?
It's a great feeling.
What made him so special?
His passion, his ability. He always wanted to win. Two-footed, absolutely lethal in the box, and for a guy who was only 5'9", Alan, he was excellent in the air. He really could get up. He had great timing in the air. So definitely, I mean, it kind of proves a wee point insofar as he's the only Scottish player to ever win the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, I mean, that's no mean feat indeed. And can I ask you about this? You'll know better than anyone. Dennis was miffed that it was only 3-2.
Yeah, he was, because obviously he'd played in the game when it was 9-3 and Scotland had got beat at Wembley. So Dennis wanted the ball up as soon as possible and get as many goals as possible. But I still think he was a bit unlucky. He could have easily scored the hat-trick in the game. But his enthusiasm rubs off on everybody. He was such a magical player.
Yeah. World class is a term sometimes, Ruffy, I think is overused. When you look at that Scotland side, I wonder how many world class players you would think we had in it. I'm going to get Jim's thoughts on it, but from your own point of view, when you look at that starting 11?
Well, you've obviously got to say Dennis, and Jim had the ability to go into any world select, and play. Jim's already said John Gregg, who was, that figurehead, that person, the captain's captain, and led by example. So yeah, I thought there were a lot of good players in that squad.
Yeah, Jim?
Yeah, I think Bobby Lennox, it was a handful for anybody. Bobby, he's such a down-to-earth guy, but he was such a dream to play with. Once he started to run, if you could find him with the ball, that was you on the attack. And I know Bobby Charlton put a lot in one of his books, saying that the one player he wanted to go to Old Trafford was Bobby Lennox.
Yeah, high praise indeed. He was a special player. In fact, if you look at his goal-scoring record, Ruffy, for club, it was phenomenal. I mean, some people, I think, forget the goal-scoring feats of Bobby Lennox for Celtic.
Yeah, and obviously the goal speaks for itself. Bobby wasn't an out-and-out striker. He could play anywhere along that front line, and as Jim said, he had the pace to take on anybody, and he always had that funny run, didn't he? With his, the sort of the old style where now that they're all taught how to run properly and everything. But Bobby was just a natural, just give him it and he just went.
Can I ask you this just before we hit this break? Jim Baxter didn't look, and I hope I'm not doing him a disservice, but he didn't look in the best of shape. I mean, some people say Baxter at his absolute peak for Rangers was 62, when he was 61, 62, when he was absolutely at the peak of his powers. Rangers were in European finals. Was he at 65? Was he in great shape? I mean, there's no doubting his ability.
I think it was deceiving because the thing about Jim is Jim would always accept the ball. It didn't matter how he was playing, he would always take the ball, and he would go and make runs, and especially with the ball. But then again, his forte really was a through pass. So he was always dangerous if he got anywhere outside the boxes to slip somebody in and get a goal chance. But I don't know about his physical condition. I think it was more mental with Jim. I think Jim thought he was the best thing since sliced bread, and it didn't matter who he was playing. He was going to be the best.
Yeah. What was your thoughts when he started playing keepy-uppy?
Well, I actually started the showboat, and if you actually watch the match, I backheeled it to Dennis. I backheeled it to Dennis, and then Dennis backheeled it to Jim, and that's when he started to keep it up. But I think he was at it for quite a bit of the game. I think at times he was maybe getting a wee bit tired, and I think that's when he slowed it down, Alan. He just put his foot on the ball because the game was going at a good pace from first to last, Alan.
Yeah. Listen, keepy-uppies, we absolutely love it. If you ask anyone, would you like to play keepy-uppy at Wembley when you're defeating England? I'm sure we'd all love to be Jim Baxter. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. The special year is 1967. It's the Wembley Wizards. It's England 2, Scotland 3. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin, and our special boot room guest is one of the Wizards himself, Jim McCalliog. Okay, to the game itself, Jim. What are your memories of the early part of it before, obviously, the first goal is scored? I mean, is the key just to try and keep them at bay, or did you feel as if, even in the early minutes, Scotland were on top of them?
Yeah, I thought the key was right at the beginning. Tommy Gemmell and I think it was John Gregg made a couple of tackles and they won the ball, and I think that set everybody's stall out, and I think that gave us confidence to start going forward. And it was a good start.
Yeah. How important is the first goal, and what are your memories of it?
I think Dennis had missed one. But previously to that, I don't think he'd actually missed it. I think he was stretching trying to get it. But then, of course, whenever a ball drops from a goalkeeper, Dennis is there, and he did exactly that. Willie had the shot at goal, Willie Wallace. The keeper dropped it, Gordon Banks, and no sooner did he dropped it, and Dennis just was on it and just flicked it in the back of the net. So that was a great start.
And of course, the other thing that I always remember about Dennis Law, Ruffy, he seemed to have that trademark celebration. If he wasn't jumping up in the air with the two legs in the air,
salute,
the shirt, the salute, the hand went up. It was just iconic, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he always had the shirt and his pulled down when they thing with it, and it was just a trademark. And as Jim said, he had that cheeky smile. And it was like Kenny Dalglish when he scored the goal. You could see what it meant to him just by looking at his face, and he must have enjoyed every goal he scored.
Yeah, and again, when you were talking about the fact Jimmy's your hero, I mean, he sets the team up right away, leading by example with that type of goal, and it is a predator. It's a predator's goal.
Yes, definitely. It's Dennis, but that was great. That obviously helped to settle us as well and gave us even more confidence. So yeah, everything was going to plan really. Yeah,
you mentioned there that I think there was a selection committee that used to pick the Scotland side, and as you said, at that time, there wasn't too much emphasis on the tactics of it. The players certainly had the ability. At times, there looked to be, when I'm watching the footage, a fair amount of space and a bit of time for players. Did you sense that when you were playing in the game?
Yeah, but very much so. I think that was down to the manager, the way he picked his team. I think he looked at it that way. But like you said, back then it was selectors that were having quite a lot to do with the team. Bobby had just been picked as the first manager, so it was obviously a big occasion for the boss as well, because You know, he's gone into a dressing room with people like Baxter and Law, and possibly in his career up to that, Alan, he hadn't been in touch with that kind of player, so he'd obviously got to find his way through to Jim Baxter and Dennis Law.
Yeah. What was said at half-time, because it's a slender advantage and they are always capable of coming back?
Yes, I think what Bobby Brown said was, you know, just keep doing what we were doing. We were playing well. Everything was going okay, and just to keep the pressure on them and don't give them time on the ball.
Of course, it was late on. I mean, it's not exactly, you know, you're not exactly getting a goal straight after half time. It's late on when really all the action starts to kick in this game.
Yeah. Well, I was just having a good time running about. I thought it was great. I was in the game quite a lot. Time flies when you're having fun, as they say. So I was having a lot of fun.
Who were you up against, or who did you have the greatest battle with on that day?
I was probably closer to Bobby Charlton than anybody that day. So I don't know. Thing is with Bobby, when he goes off from a standing start, it's hard to catch him.
Yeah.
So I probably picked the wrong one to be close to from a defensive point of view.
And of course, you mentioned it on this programme, which I think highlights the qualities of Bobby Lennox, because suddenly Ruffy, he gets the second and everybody's in dreamland.
Yeah, I mean, it's Jim will tell you, when you're actually on the park when something like that happens and everyone goes round about the stadium, you just have to soak it all in, don't you? You just get carried away with it. You just, the whole support just lifts you, and you've got to actually firmly keep your feet on the ground, because you know there's still time to go. When the final whistle goes, yeah, you can let yourself go, but it's still in the back of your mind that, as you said, they're a quality side. They're going to come. They're going to get chances. So you just have to believe that you can hang on in there and win it. Yeah,
it's 2-0 to England, but it's 2-0 against England, Ruffy. But I have to say, you know, there's probably a contrast in emotions from Jim's feeling when Dave Neary scores for Scotland against Brazil in '82. Most of your side said, "Oh no, what have we done?" Yeah. when Bobby Lennox scores in '67, they're thinking, "Great, let's charge on and get more." I presume that was the feeling. What was the noise like inside the stadium?
Well, of course, then you got the fans shouting "easy, easy," and then Baxter started playing a bit then to the gallery, him and wee Billy Bremner. So the feeling out on the field was fabulous. So although you're concentrating still on the game, you can obviously hear the crowd, and it was great to hear them all singing and chanting.
Can you give me your thoughts, Jim, on Billy Bremner? Because from my perception of him, I thought he was a gifted footballer. I mean, some people look and think aggression. Some people have that iconic image of Dave Mackay holding him by the shirt when he was at Leeds United. Well, you know, Dave had suffered one of his hefty tackles, but I thought he was much more than that. What about yourself?
Yeah, so I think people tend to forget what a skillful, clever footballer he was. I mean, he carried Leeds on his back for years, really. I mean, he scored a lot of important goals in big games. If you look at most of the big games at Leeds, Billy's, you know, usually scoring a goal there. But he was a fabulous player. He was very competitive. Didn't want to lose in any circumstances.
Now, 1967, what a lot of younger viewers will not be aware of is making substitutions wasn't really on the cards at that time. It was just about to come into the game. So Jack Charlton has broken his toe. He effectively has to move up front because there's no replacement for him.
No, there isn't. And that was all the more probably that Dennis wanted to capitalise a bit more on that, whereas Jim wanted to have a bit of fun at times, Jim Baxter. So, yeah, I mean, as you look at the game and I thought back on the game, we really did push to capitalise on it, but Gordon Banks has got, I would say he's got two really great saves, Alan, and you could appreciate that, you know, being a goalkeeper yourself. Yeah,
I think when we talk about world class, Gordon Banks easily comes into that category. You will appreciate that as a goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think unfortunately for Gordon Banks, the first thing everybody remembers is the save against Brazil, but there was more to that. You know, he was fantastic. I mean, after him was obviously Shilton. But the saves that you don't, because of you've identified earlier, there was a lot of cameras at the game. You don't see a lot of the saves that he made at club level as well. He was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. You know, Jack Charlton scores even with a broken toe.
Yeah,
Did you start to think at that point, oh, wait a minute, they're coming back at us?
No, I think we were quite in control of it. I think then you can see that we're keeping the ball to see the time out, really, Alan, you know. So, I mean, it's not just today that they run the clock down. We were doing it back in the day, really.
Yeah. Here's my favourite part of the programme, Jim, and it's going to be your favourite part. Talk us through your goal.
Yeah, well, being a midfield player, I'm playing a supporting role. I had a free role, really. And when Billy went running in the corner with the ball, I thought he's just running the clock down. And then he got it, and they seemed to be a few people short. And I started to make a run, and then Billy played it to Bobby Lennox. And by the time Bobby got it, I was coming onto the ball in space, so couldn't be better. So Bobby played it to the side. I took it on a wee bit, shaped to Willie Wallace, played a 1-2, and I was just in a hurry then to get my shot in because I could see Bobby Moore coming across and I could see Banksy round about me. So I just smashed it in as hard as I could in the corner. And it was such a lovely sight to see Bobby Moore and Gordon Banks on the backside.
It's another iconic moment. Did you have family there who witnessed that?
Yeah, my dad was there, so I knew where my dad was. He was just to the, as we looked down the pitch, he was to the left, which was where I went running. And then, of course, my idol come over and gives a wee cuddle, Dennis Law.
Magic. Doesn't get any better than that. This programme could probably last about 9 hours as we get through every minute of it, but we're running right out of time. I do hope you join us after the break. We'll talk about the aftermath of it all, 3-2, the implications of that win and whether it sent Scotland on to another level or indeed whether it actually sent England into a downward spiral. It finished England 2, Scotland 3. Jeff Hurst got a consolation goal. In the next part of the programme, we'll talk to Jim about some of the memories after it. We'll also discuss Jim's own club career, which was littered with some highs and some lows as well. Hopefully you're enjoying a special year, 1967, when Scotland were the unofficial world champions. Welcome back to Peter and Rotby's football show here on STV2. 1967 is a special year for Scottish football and especially at international level. England 2, Scotland 3 is a game we will always remember. It certainly goes down in folklore as one of those special matches. When it finishes 3-2, I mean, what's the feeling like, Jim?
The feeling was absolutely brilliant. For whatever reason, I run to Ronnie Simpson, which was the far end of Wembley. The tunnel was at the other end, and I just embraced with Ronnie and Billy. I remember Billy coming over and a few of the guys, and as soon as we turned round to look, all the fans were on the pitch, and it was a hell of a job trying to get off the pitch. They were everywhere. They were pulling my shirts, and it was fantastic. But I mean, it was great for the Scottish fans because they waited every 2 years for it, and it's a bit like the Irish going to Cheltenham for the races every year, you know.
I think people don't realise that way back then, when you went down to England, as soon as you landed there, you were never going to win. You know, the media had them built up as unbeatable.
Yeah.
You know, it was a poor Scotland team. He played for this, he played for that. And as soon as you landed, you always felt inferior. And I think that was the motivation. You know, I don't think they realised that as soon as they started talking you down, that's when Scottish teams start performing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. A lot of the times, I mean, Scottish teams play English teams, and it always seems that Scottish teams do well. And they keep saying that England's better than Scotland. That was back then, Peter, you know. But even friendly matches, anything like that. Scotland always held their own with England.
Yeah, and with that in mind, this game, well, there was a tremendous amount of bragging rights for Scotland. It was part of a bigger picture, the British Home Championships. It had implications for the qualifying stages of the 1968 European Championships. And of course, we talk about all the great players that you played with, and you were part of that special team there. We didn't make it to European Championships. We didn't make it to the World Cup in 1970. It was, and in fact, disappointingly, we didn't even make it to the World Cup in 1966.
That's right. Yeah, that's it's a bit of an enigma, really, why we had so much talent, and we didn't get to the big tournaments, like you said. I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of the Scottish psyche. I don't know. We seem to, when we play the bigger teams, or the supposedly bigger teams in the world, we rise to the occasion, and when we play the minnows, we don't seem to put them in their place enough. We seem to feel a wee bit sorry for them.
I mentioned way back at the start of the programme the quality of the players and the fact that so many of them had played in European finals. I mean, as a player yourself, to be thrust into the spotlight so young at 20 years of age, you know, it was one of 5 caps that you got for Scotland. Is there a sense of regret that you didn't get more, or a sense of achievement that you were lucky enough to, you know, be playing alongside the likes of Ronnie Simpson, you see in the picture there, and so many others?
Yeah, there is regret, and obviously I'd have loved to have got more caps. The you know, circumstances can make that. Myself personally, I got a lot of niggly injuries at the wrong time, but also I hold my hands up and say there was a lot of competition. There were some great players around, so you know, I don't regret anything in my career, Peter. I was a Gorbals boy. I thoroughly enjoyed my football career. I got 17 years. I travelled the world, met people, enriched my life so much.
And the great thing about you mentioning that is, especially when I looked at your club career, you've played in the European final, you've played in 2 FA Cup finals as well, one which I think has gone down in history as the greatest ever comeback for Everton, much to the annoyance of yourself at Sheffield Wednesday. But of course you also played in a side in Southampton that upset the odds against Manchester United.
Yeah, that was a particularly nice one, because I'd only left Man United a year before that, and of course we got to the final and we were against Man United. I think there again we were underdogs against Southampton, but we had internationals like Mickey Shannon, who was really the #1 pick for England as a striker, Peter Osgood, and we had Peter Rodriguez, who's a Welsh international, and we were pretty confident on that day as well. So yeah, fabulous. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday, to be 2-0 up at 19 and get beat, the world crashed around me. But the one thing was, I just thought in the back of my head, I'm going to go back there again. Yeah. And I've got time, so I'm only 19, and luckily enough, it happened exactly 10 years later. And of course, we ended up with the right result, and that's certainly a highlight of my football career, yeah.
Yeah, and amazingly, you have to dig deep in these things, but I'm looking and I'm saying to myself, well, you end up playing at Wolves in a European final against, of all teams, Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, that was quite unusual, because we'd beaten Juventus, who were the Italian champions, in the quarterfinals, and we ended up with Tottenham. But our manager, Bill McGarry, made a suggestion to UEFA that we would play the final at one game at Wembley, but it was over 2 legs, and UEFA turned it down. They said no, we wouldn't do that. So we lost the first game at Molineux 2-1, and then it was 1 each at Tottenham, but of course that was their aggregate 3-2. Yeah,
I can't let you go without talking about 67 and the game in particular, because there's one little story that I think is just a golden nugget from it, which, had it happened, it could have changed your career completely. From that 3-2 win against England, there was a chance, there was a sniff that you could have been on your way to Manchester United.
Yeah, I think that was probably, other than the cup final, that was probably the biggest disappointment of my life. After the game, Alan, my career was progressing, And then I'd heard through the grapevine and in a good source that I was going to Man U, and then I found out later that I was priced out of the market, and it would have been fantastic if I'd gone there in '67, because the following year they won the European Cup.
That would have been unbelievable, and you know, to even get the chance to play with your hero Dennis Law at club level would have been something to remember forever.
I mean, it is, when Jim's talking away there, it's absolutely incredible that the career he's had at an early age. You know, how many 19, 20-year-olds are playing in cup finals, and at 20 playing for a national team, your country, at Wembley? I don't think there were many people in that era would have done that.
Yeah. Did you sense that this would be a game that would live in the Scottish folklore for forever and a day?
Yeah, I think so. It was for Dennis to be so serious about it all. I particularly just taking it back a wee bit in the tunnel, Alan. Nobby Stiles was looking at Dennis to say hello to Dennis, and Dennis wouldn't speak to him at all. He kept turning away, and I know this is true because I did a testimonial dinner in Aberdeen, and Nobby Stiles was talking, and he says, I was looking at Dennis, because he was a young player, was Nobby as well, and he says, I was looking at Dennis, my teammate, to see if he'd give me a smile or a nice wee glance, and he says, and he just blanked me. He says, but as soon as the game finished, he was all over me.
Yeah, I mean, that's if it's humanly possible to like Dennis Law any more, Ruffy, I like him even more after that story. Do you not?
Yeah, I would think the characters that Jim had in that team, I think they would have all been going up to people and making sure you shook every one of their hands after that game.
Yeah. What would you give to turn the clock back and sample that one more time?
Oh, everything, I think. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was a fabulous time in my life, and yeah, it was something special.
Yeah. Do you still have a close bond with the players that are still luckily with us?
Yeah, it was only a short while ago. I've been doing some events, and it's evening with players, and I had John Gregg on. Dennis was supposed to appear, but Dennis unfortunately wasn't very well. Willie Henderson appeared on it, and they were both fantastic, and Tommy Docherty, one of my ex-managers, stood in for Dennis, but hopefully I'll put Dennis on sometime in the future in another event in Glasgow. Yeah,
and I've got to ask you, last point, is he still your hero?
Yes, definitely, more so than ever.
Yeah, it's a great way to finish. Listen, I'm so glad that you never get tired of talking about it. We certainly never get tired of listening to people recall those great stories of 1967. It's a special year. So many special programmes that we've put together to commemorate all those great achievements when I think it's fair to say we were the unofficial world champions, Ruffy. I know it sounds rather grand, but it's what every Scot holds on to.
Yeah, as far as I was concerned, as a 15-year-old playing in that park, we were world champions.
Yep, and delighted to have one of the Wembley Wizards with us here. When will we see their like again? Hopefully sometime soon, please. To Jim McCalliog, our thanks and best wishes for the future. We've thoroughly enjoyed this hour in his company, celebrating 1967, England 2, Scotland 3. Thanks for watching. Good night.